Good morning and welcome to the 17th of January. It's a Monday morning and a wintry weekend we've had and still continues on here, I guess. Today's chapter from Michael Card is entitled, or reading I should say, is His Humanity. The lyrics of this song are music by Scott Brasher. Scott Brasher. Listen carefully. Born in flesh like you and me, in his humanity, to be believed for all to see was his identity. In flesh and blood, in tender skin, his birth begins the story. From an empty grave he rose to save, and this became the beginning of good news. His familiar voice, its changing tones, his laugh, his groan, his smile, all the sleepless nights, his lonely grief, their disbelief, his sighs, his homelessness, his weariness, asleep on a stormy sea, soaked by the rain while in his veins his blood contained the hope for all the world. He was hungry, he was happy, he was tired, he was thirsty. He could sorrow, he could savor, he could marvel at the flowers. He could thrill hearing birds sing. He would weep at the first sign of spring. His hour had come, and far too soon. With the waxing of the moon, caught up in a tide of hate and lies, a torrent toward the tomb. Midst the pain and fear, his joyful tears were blended with his bleeding. In the endless ache, his eyes await and dilate with the darkness. He is bleeding, he is pleading, he is crying, he is dying. As he fights to go on breathing, his mind sees each soul he will redeem. Wow. Was Jesus' heart rate more or less than the normal 60 to 80 beats per minute? Did it quicken when he was excited and slow when he took a deep breath to relax? What about his cholesterol level? Was it a healthy 100 or higher? Given the nature of a first century diet, my guess is high cholesterol didn't pose too much of a threat. And what about his fingerprints? Were they simple loops or the rarer circular pattern? What color were his eyes? These may seem like fruitless, frivolous questions, and of course we cannot know the answers to them yet. But for me, unanswerable questions still matter. Socrates said, sometimes there is more knowing in the questions than in the answers. All these unanswerable questions point to his humanity, his complete, perfect experience of all that it means to be human. His eyes dilated with the darkness, his skin bruised when he struck his knee against the corner of a chair. He almost certainly inherited mannerisms from Mary and adopted those of Joseph. His laugh, his smile, the way he would lean his head to one side when he was thinking deeply about something. We know from the Gospels that he was hungry, Matthew 4:2, 21:18, that he was tired, John 4:6, and that he was a deep sleeper, Luke 8:23. He marveled. I cannot imagine Jesus not being drawn to the breathtaking beauty of Galilee, to the myriad birds and flowers, to the beauty of the lake. Exercising our imaginations in wondering about the extent of the humanity of Jesus may draw us to him in a new and more particular way, but it misses the central point. Whatever the blood type that flowed through his veins, it was the sacrifice of that blood that redeemed and paid for the sins of the world, while in his veins his blood contained the hope for all the world, quoting again from the lyrics. He lived a fully and yet perfect human life. As the author of Hebrews reminds us, he was tempted in every way, just as we are, yet without sin. It qualifies him not simply to be our great high priest, but moreover to be the perfect sacrifice. That was the point of his humanity, to be the perfect sacrifice. He has a lyric note on this one. He draws attention to the last part of the lyric. His mind sees each soul he will redeem. And he puts that as he's on the cross, as he's drawing those final breaths. He said, well, I love the idea of the blood flowing in his veins containing the hope for the world. For me, the song turns on the moment when on the cross, Jesus perceives each person his suffering will redeem. The most striking line is not necessarily the key. Wow. Wow. Who for the joy set before him endured the cross. All that we might know Jesus more fully in our walk with him, and not just truths that we've put in our brains, but realities we've put in our hearts. That we love him, that we want to know him more and more, that we want to fully appreciate his life and his sacrifice for us. Oh, help us, Lord, to know you more. Blessings to you today on the start of this new week.